on multiple levels. So, the Querro making the observation that there is an opportunity to make changes, and people are waking up at a phenomenal rate of knots. And we know this is occurring, and we know that those who think they are the rightful rulers of the planet know this is occurring as well, because Zbigniew Brzezinski, 40 years ago, in his book called Between Two Ages, The Technotronic Era, made the observation that he said that one of the challenges for Western governments is to keep their people locked into consumerist materialism, preventing them from realizing who they truly are. Well, that sounds like an awareness of a spiritual awakening occurring to me. Well, that same guy, on May the 15th, I think it was, this year, he gave a presentation to the Council on Foreign Relations where he said that the biggest stumbling block, the biggest obstacle to establishing the one world government was the rapid political awakening of the masses. So here we have the same guy, 40 years apart, talking about the spiritual awakening and then talking about the political awakening, and how in both cases they present obstacles to establishing global governance.
For people that don't know who Zbigniew Brzezinski is, he's not at the top of the pyramid, but he's certainly very high up there, and he is a kingmaker in himself. And you were discussing last night that he has been grooming Barack Obama for 27 years.
Yeah, he was also the guy who groomed Jimmy Carter. So you're absolutely right in your choice of phrase there, the kingmaker. But Brzezinski works for David Rockefeller. Brzezinski and Kissinger are arch strategists. Their predecessor was arguably an even deeper socio-psychopath, a guy called Bernard Baruch. But of course these guys always have ways of making these people look good. I mean, that's why Kissinger has the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, the guy that probably has more blood on his hands than any other individual alive, and he's got the Nobel Peace Prize. Now Tony Blair has been given the Order of Peace or something. I mean, it's enough.
Beggars belief.
It makes you.
Obama won the Peace Prize this year, and that was after he'd started drone attacking Pakistan without, going to war and all the rest of it.
So let's hide the real level of the socio-psychopathy of these people by giving them
awards.
And Bernard Baruch, was the main player from certainly the early part of the 20th century, right up until probably his death in 1965. It was. It was 95 when he died, but he was certainly active well into his 80s. Of course, as is Brzezinski today. And Bernard Baruch effectively handed over the reins to both Kissinger and Brzezinski. So Brzezinski absolutely is a major strategist in terms of what is occurring on the in the deep geopolitical arena. The Querro were basically counselling, and have been counselling for 40 odd years, that we actually need to reflect upon the way in which we relate to our environment. And whilst this might sound like something straight out of the green agenda, it's absolutely not. I mean, because there is no obsession here with depopulation as the green agenda seems to have, and as I've said before, this BP event is, in my opinion, a population reduction event.
And the 1010 advert that you showed us from last night, the
1010 promo, yeah.
I mean, people got to watch it if they haven't seen it.
Yeah, the Global 1010. I mean, go Google. We encourage people to go Google Global 1010.
Watch the advert.
Or watch the video from last night's presentation in Birmingham, where I incorporated it into the presentation. Where we see that those people who still pump out the whole political construct of anthropogenic global warming and try to continue this absurdity that carbon dioxide is a poisonous gas. I mean, please, people just stop and think. I mean, the guys that are perpetrating this agenda cannot stop themselves from laughing at how stupid the vast majority of humanity are by buying this bullshit. Because
it's like Hitler said, the bigger the lie.
The greater the lie, exactly. The greater, I think it was a quote from Mein Kampf, wasn't it? The greater the lie, the more the people refuse to believe their leaders are capable of perpetrating such an event. And of course this is true here. And so the life-giving gas for all plant life on the planet, which is critical for oxygen production, and we dismiss it as a poison. I mean, it's an absurdity. But we can see the mindset of these people when we look at this promo video, which effectively, in 4 scenes, has the summary execution of, in the first scene, school children who don't buy into attempts to reduce their carbon footprint, office workers, David Ginola, and Gillian Anderson. And this thing was directed by Richard Curtis, of course, who directed Love Actually, and was championed by a lady called Fanny Armstrong, who heads up the Global 1010 campaign, which is a British government funded campaign to reduce carbon dioxide output, i.e. population, by 10% by 2010. And then by the way, they go on to another one. The next one is 2020, which is to reduce 20% by 2020. But you can see the thinking. I mean, these people, you can see the mindset, i.e. anybody who doesn't buy into their dogma should be summarily executed. Now, what the Querro is saying is that, this is obviously outrageous, but ultimately, the planet, this amazing biosphere that we inhabit, will determine what she, Pachamama, can or can't support. And I think we've seen that, many times in the past. Now, what the Querro basically are saying is that, the unfolding future is very much in our hands, and it's also in our hearts. And they say that there are 2 things that we must do to try and perhaps change the direction that humanity is taking. One is that we must actually make a conscious effort on the physical realm to try and bring about the changes that we would like to see, to try and bring about the changes in the way in which we relate to ourselves, to each other, to our community, and ultimately, of course, to the planet.
Be the change you wish to see in the world.
Be the change you wish to see. Gandhi, wasn't it? Yeah. Mm. And the other thing that we have to do, and their word was dream, but after much discussion with them, we agreed that perhaps the more appropriate word is visualize. We also need to visualize the future that we want to see. And their observation is that one without the other is impotent. If you just visualize but then don't do anything in the on the physical realm, then it's next to meaningless. And the same thing with, even if you're focused on the physical realm, bringing about the changes that you want to see, if you're not putting in the effort to actually visualize where you would like to go longer term, or like to see our society go longer term, civilization to go longer term, then it's meaningless.
You can't realise it.
No, you can't realise it, exactly. And their observation is that, if we do the 2, if we're focusing some energy into the visualization, we will notice that actually our efforts on the physical realm seem to sort of be mapped out for us. There's a path to follow, and that path is effectively being created through the work that we're doing on the visualizing. Now, if this sounds a little bit New Agey, it absolutely is the antithesis of the New Age, because listen to what these guys are saying. Is if you just focus on the selfish New Age type path of we're just living in love and light and to hell with everybody else, then actually the guys who are perpetrating the agenda say thank you very much, because you're out of the way, and you're not actually doing anything to challenge them. And of course, Dr. John Coleman, actually writing in the Committee of 300 nearly 30 years ago, made the observation that the New Age movement was a political construct dreamed up by Stanford research, whether that's right or wrong or not. But the reality is that those people who have effectively distanced themselves from what's going on in the physical realm, they're doing what Gurdjieff called the selfish lifestyle. I mean, Gurdjieff in the early 20th century said that the most selfish way of life was the way of the monk, because all you were doing was focusing on your own salvation and to hell with everyone else. Now, he also made the observation that everybody needs to go through that process. People need to go through that journey of self-realization. But once they've been through it, then their challenge is to find a way to come back into the world with that newfound knowledge, information, wisdom, whatever, and find a way to make that contribution in the physical realm. And so the Querro was saying that basically, we have this opportunity to bring about these changes, But they also made some other very interesting observations, because they are of the opinion that those people who are starting to be aware of the wider implications of things are just the advanced party, because their belief is that something pretty significant is going to occur in the very near future, which is actually going to trigger a mass awakening. And this awakening is going to be so enormous that many people actually won't be able to cope with it. And what they observe is that this awakening is going to be brought about by the solar storms that we know are scheduled to kick in from about October 2011 and run right through until the year 2013.
Which coincides with the Mayan calendar 2012 prophecy, consciousness, centre of the universe.
There's a whole bunch of areas that people should actually go and take a look at for themselves and come to their own conjecture, if you like. But the reality is that, you know, I don't know that what the Querro is saying is absolutely right. I mean, it's a philosophy.
It's interesting that they're saying it.
But it's very interesting they're saying it right now. It's very interesting for me that they came out of the mountains when they did, 50 years ago. It's very interesting how I ended up in Peru and how I ended up having the opportunity to spend the time with them that I did.
They'll have to watch the presentation
to watch the presentation to see that, yeah. But, you know, the reality is that what's occurring right now in the physical realm is totally unsustainable. You know, we are not only in a resource meltdown, you know, because we're abusing the resources that we have. I mean, I'm not suggesting they're running out, but it's just abuse. You know, we don't need to be consuming 90 million barrels of hydrocarbons a day. We have an infrastructure in place that produces 90 million barrels a day, so we have to sell it. Coupled with which, Western governments in particular are very heavily reliant on the taxation that they get from selling hydrocarbons. So without the hydrocarbon economy, then the financial economy would be in a serious world of hurt. Well, of course it is anyway, because the debt bubble has been burst. So, you know, we're in a situation as of right now where Ireland, of course, would appear to have totally capitulated to the banksters. We'll have to see how that unfolds. But, you know, the next target is Portugal, then Spain, then Italy, and then the UK. And what we are potentially condemning our children and our children's children to is a life of abject economic slavery. So, you know, if we are comfortable with that, then fine, we can just sort of, you know, go off and do the selfish thing. Alternatively, if we have any kind of conscience about the legacy that we want to leave for future generations, then now is the time, probably more so than ever before, now is the time to actually start to think about how we can make this contribution. And as the Querro say, the contribution needs to be on two levels. The physical realm, where we look at how we can make a contribution to bringing about the changes that we feel we need to see in the physical realm, but at the same time think about the future we want to see longer term. Now, you know, one of obviously the visualizations that I have is certainly a world that isn't traumatized by things like flesh-eating bacteria. And I have to say that I think that even if this was part of their agenda, and I believe it was, that the biosphere that we live in is absolutely amazing, and it is capable of amazing things. And I have quoted previously a couple of incidents that occurred while I was in the oil industry. But let me use this analogy. When we injure ourselves, we cut ourselves badly or we break a bone, we don't have to consciously think about the healing process. The body has a natural healing mechanism that kicks in. Now, there are certainly those who believe that if we do actually focus some thought on the wound or the broken bone, we can accelerate that healing process. This, of course, is suppressed by the allopathic pharmaceutical industry because it doesn't sell pills very well.
Doesn't make a lot of money.
Doesn't make a lot of money, exactly. So no, let's not encourage people to believe that they can contribute to the healing process. But even if we don't think about it, the body kicks in a process that will generally bring about self-healing.